As we do every Sunday, we take a moment to honor all spiritual paths. So, as an interfaith gathering, a spiritual community that honors all teachings and all spiritual teachers, we begin the ceremony that celebrates this oneness of life, which acknowledges all peoples, all faiths, come from the one universal principle, which we call spirit. Our candle lighter this morning is Sharon. See what happens when you take a class? And so let us begin. The Tao, honoring the universal path of harmony and equilibrium, the natural way. Shamanic traditions, honoring the beliefs and practices of all indigenous peoples, the way of pristine spirituality. Hinduism, honoring the path of knowledge, action, and devotion. Judaism, honoring the ethical path of living by sacred law. Buddhism, honoring the Four Noble Truths and the path of compassion. Christianity, honoring the Christ consciousness as the path of love. Islam, honoring the path of submission to the will of God as the highest calling. And of course, New Thought, honoring the metaphysical path of mental healing through the practice of universal spiritual principles. Now that last candle is the candle of love. It's a healing candle of love. So we invite you in the stillness of your own mind to bring to awareness the names of anyone that you wish to be included in this healing flame of love and light. And now that our flames of faith are fully lighted, we move forward into our celebration, realizing and reaffirming that all paths lead to God.
A young nun became ill, and she very quickly got sicker and sicker and sicker. And it happened so fast, the doctors had no idea what was going on. And her condition deteriorated so quickly, so rapidly, that the only thing they could do was to summon a priest to give her the final rites. And so the priest came, gave her final rites, and not long after that, her condition, at least she quit deteriorating so quickly, and then she actually started to improve a little bit. And over the next period of time, and I'm not sure what that was, I get the feeling it was a couple weeks, she actually grew stronger and stronger. But at the same time her condition was improving, she had a series of what she called revelations. I think these were some sort of pneumatic experience where she had a connection with that infinite creative force that we call God. And in that she experienced these eye-opening or heart-opening, these powerful revelations. And she was able to write them down, and she actually wrote a book then, and it was called Revelations of Divine Love. And these revelations dealt with powerful psychological, philosophical, theological issues of the time. Things like God and evil. If we have this infinite, all-powerful God who is good and loves us, why do we have misery and death and destruction? Why do we have evil? And she dove right in and dealt with issues like that. And she dealt with things like predestination was one. Okay, if everything is God's will, am I not predestined to do certain things, to act a certain way, to be a certain type of person? Or do I really have free will? And she brought these kinds of really powerful questions together. And this is remarkable in itself. If this would have been, 5 years ago or 10 years ago, or even, 50 years ago. This was in approximately 1373. This was 650 years ago. The lady was Julian of Norwich. And she was able to embrace the paradox. Our monthly theme is playing with paradox. And the title of my talk today is The Paradox Mindset. You may wonder how all this fits with the science of mind and Ernest Holmes. In Science of Mind, Ernest Holmes reminds us to remain open at the top. That's why our teaching symbol, we've got the circle and we got the 3 parts, and then we got the V that goes down. It's open at the top. One of the ways that we can do this is through embracing and developing a paradox mindset. And paradox thinking is a natural part of the Science of Mind teaching. We believe in oneness, even when there is suffering and struggle in the world. We believe that the infinite and the finite are one, and that our mind is an individualized expression of the one mind. All of these beliefs require a paradoxical mindset, the ability to hold 2 seemingly contrary ideas at the same time. A paradox mindset is the key as we deepen our spiritual understanding of this modern world. So I have 3 points today. First, I'm going to define paradox. What is a paradox? Number 2, what is a paradox mindset? And finally, I'm going to talk about a thing called Janusian thinking. So we start off with, what is a paradox? The word paradox comes from the Greek para, meaning contrary to, and doxa, meaning opinion. The Latin term paradoxum means seemingly absurd, but really true. And when we have questions, we can always turn to one of my favorites, Brené Brown. In Atlas of the Heart, Brené Brown defines paradox as the appearance, you notice that she uses the word appearance, the appearance of contradiction between 2 related components. Good way that we can see this, we had in class on Thursday, and we dealt with the idea that in modern theology, we tend to think of that infinite creative force as both immanent and transcendent. A couple of big words. What do those really mean? Immanent means existing or operating within. It is inherent. It is not to be confused with immanent. They sound exactly the same. This is spelled with an A, I-M-M-A-nent, as opposed to I, spelled with an I, M-M-I-M-M-I-N-E-N-T. During this past week, we were all very hopeful that a settlement could be reached on the budget extension so that we could not let the government shut down. And we all hoped that a settlement was imminent, about ready to happen. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the thing that's within, immanent. It is within all of us. And then we have transcendent. And transcendent means beyond or above the range of normal or merely physical human experience. Surpassing the ordinary, exceptional. And when used in terms of theology of God's Spirit, the thing itself means existing apart from and not subject to the limitations of the material universe. So we have on one hand this supernatural, all-powerful, all-knowing, everything, creative force that is infinite in every direction, and yet it is within each and every one of us. So we have these two contradictory things. We find paradoxes everywhere in our world. It's in all kinds of things. Light and dark are seeming opposites, yet one cannot exist without the other. And then we have phrases, and I like some of these phrases. You have to spend money to make money. We've all heard that, I think. If you don't risk anything, you risk everything. Less is more. God is consciousness and matter simultaneously. And one of my favorite ones, and I even enjoy this, jumbo shrimp. However, the human mind is designed for either or thinking. It's very uncomfortable and unnatural for us to embrace two seemingly opposite things. And I think this is a holdover, a leftover from our centuries in the caves, where it was important for us to have that peripheral vision. So if we saw something out of the corner of our eye, we could determine if it was A or B. It was real black and white. Is that a leaf blowing in the breeze? Or is that the saber-toothed tiger that's getting ready to jump on me and eat me? So a lot of what we did was based on either or, and we didn't have room to embrace both of the things at once. Now, however, both and thinking is necessary to solve the challenges that we face in our society and our world. We must shift from thinking in black and white, linear, binary terms like right and wrong, and open ourselves up to a paradox mindset. Ernest Holmes, in Living Without Fear, wrote, "The riddle of the universe is a paradox. The question is its own answer, for the mind that asks the question is also of the mind that answers it." So that gives us an idea of what a paradox is. Two seeming opposites. That leads to the next point. What is a paradox mindset? The paradox mindset is the ability to hold and consider two seemingly opposed ideas at the same time. While we tend to believe that being pulled in opposite directions will cause stress, studies have actually shown that when we can embrace this tension and step into paradoxical thinking, people are more creative, flexible, and productive. When we live our science of mind teaching, requires us to have a paradox mindset as we're consistently pulled in the two seemingly opposite directions of seeing all as oneness, while also being confronted with suffering and brokenness of the world. A paradox mindset allows us the freedom to simultaneously hold both of these ideas in our minds without a need to solve a problem. In fact, by embracing the paradox, we sometimes come to realize that there is no problem to solve at all. But this does not mean that we deny the existence of pain and misery. These conditions are very real, but we can hold that there is another truth. And we sometimes think that that's a greater truth. In the face of lack and limitation, we can know that we live in an abundant universe. In the face of separation, we can know that we are one with one another and one with God. In the face of disease, we can know that there is perfect health because we know that that divine creative force isn't sick. Julian of Norwich was spot on. She just happened to be 650 years before her time. Last point, Janewsian thinking. Psychiatrist Albert Rothenberg coined the term Janewsian thinking to describe this paradox mindset. Named for Janus, the Roman god of transitions, duality, time, beginnings and endings, gates and doorways. Janewsian thinking is the practice of actively conceiving and using multiple opposite or antithetical thoughts or constructions simultaneously to solve our problems. When we come up against a challenge, an obstacle, or problem, our instinct is to push against it. There's a commercial on TV. I don't even know what it's trying to sell, but they have all of these dominoes and they're all bung, 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 knocking the next one up. And finally, until they get them to the lady who has taken the latest miracle drug and she stands up and she pushes against the dominoes. And that's our natural thing to do. Janewsian thinking suggests that rather than finding the one solution, that we open ourselves up to multiple possibilities and ways of thinking. It calls us to shift from our limited perspective of the world to take in ideas, perspectives, and possibilities that we had never considered before. And I really would like to challenge our leaders at this time to step in and start embracing the opposites. Because there are solutions. I have my own paradox going on right now in my life and in mine's life. I think you all know that I absolutely love my job. I love each and every one of you. I have been so privileged for the last 9 years to be your minister. I've got to experience profound shifts and changes, and it's been a powerful time for me. But I am aware that it's time for me to go. Ernest Holmes, one of my favorite quotes. Well, in fact, I have it in the front of my hardbound, leather-bound, gold-edged Science of Mind that I have at home, and I have this in the front of it. It comes from, I didn't write it down, but it's page 385, paragraph 1. Nature will not let us stay in any one place too long. She will let us stay just long enough to gather the experience necessary to the unfolding and the advancement of the soul. This is a wise provision, for should we stay here too long, we would become too set, too rigid, too inflexible. Nature demands change in order that we may advance. When the change comes, we should welcome it with a smile on the lips and a song in the heart. And so I think this is a wonderful opportunity for our center to advance. And it's an opportunity for the congregation, all of us, to welcome this change with a smile on our lips and a song in our heart. Now, this doesn't mean that, this isn't a 2-week notice and, Ann and I are going to be on a Micronesian island somewhere. I knew that this was going to be a long process, and as we dealt with the people from home office, came to the awareness that the process, particularly given Alaska, is going to take about 18 months. So by the time, we got to start with prayer. We got to start with visioning. We got to start with meditating on it. We've got to do our own spiritual practices around this. And then we have to put together a packet. The days have changed. When I candidated here, there were lots of ministers vying for a few open pulpits, and it's kind of different today. There's a lot of open pulpits looking for ministers, so we need to put our best foot forward. So we need to create a video and things, and all that takes time. And then I would advise, I don't know, boy, the Home Office was clear that I'm not supposed to be part of the selection process. However, I'd say we want to keep it open anyway for 6 months to attract the right people, and then there's a period of time for, you'll have fun having guest speakers come up and do workshops, and then in about the end of April 30th, 2025, hopefully Ann and I will be in Europe, headed to the south of France to begin walking the Camino again. So let's see, what else did we have? Oh yes, in conclusion today, the thing that I want you to take away, the takeaway for today, this is from Jim Collins, and some of you know that I am a great fan of Good to Great, his book, Good to Great. It's like my Bible of management, and it fits so well with a nonprofit that's largely volunteer driven. He wrote another book. It's called BE 2.0. BE stands for Beyond Entrepreneurship. And this is what he wrote. Builders of greatness are comfortable with paradox. They don't oppress themselves with the tyranny of the or, which pushes people to believe that things must be either A or B, but not both. Instead, they liberate themselves with the genius of the and. And so with this concept of a paradox, being able to hold two things at once, I invite my colleagues to join me in seeing beyond conditions, seeing beyond the effects that we have in this world, seeing beyond sickness and disease, to seeing the greater truth that that infinite creative force of the universe has never been sick, has never had a broken leg, has never had a mental illness, and we are individualized expressions of that infinite creative force. And so we, each and every one of us, are greater than those conditions of disease. We are greater. And even though we absolutely know that there are people who are suffering in this world today, that there is more month than there is paycheck, that by the middle of the month all the money is gone, and a family has to make the really tough decisions between money for medicine for the kids or food. That there is lack, there is limitation, there are these things and they exist in this world, but we also know that we live in an abundant universe, a prosperous universe, and that we are greater than the conditions of lack and limitation. That within us is the capacity to share, is within us is the capacity to help one another. That we are greater than that lack and limitation because we are expressions of the Most High, and the Most High has never been broke. And we know that we are all deeply connected. We may have the appearance of disagreement. We may have the appearance of not being able to get along. We may think that our political views are so opposite that we can't possibly exist. And yet the fact remains that we are all children of that infinite creative force. We are all brothers and sisters in God, in spirit. And so we can just give thanks. We can give thanks for this powerful, powerful awakening, this ability to embrace the paradox, see beyond the or, and accept the and. So we just give thanks, we let it go, we let it be, and so it is.